It's a great pleasure for us to interview Patrick Verhoeven, who is president of the International Ports and Harbours Association, ex-chairman of Espo. We would like to ask you a question about the port governments. What is your view on the port authority housekeeper model?
Yeah, there's a major evolution that we've seen in Europe and also other places of the world, that most ports around the world today are what they call landlord model ports. But that concept has, gone through a whole transition, and I think it is much more accurate today to speak of port authorities as development organizations, that they take a much more direct interest in the business of the port community, which is a bit contradictory to the very strict interpretation of the landlord model, because that means you just give land in concession to a private operator and you don't bother. That model is no longer sustainable. I think what we're seeing around the world is that port authorities take a much more active engagement in actually the business side of the port development.
Because in Italy, port authorities are public bodies. Yes. Do you think they should become commercial entities?
I don't think it is a matter of the ownership, because you can perfectly be a government-owned entity. Yes. What is important is that you have the autonomy and the sort of corporate model that gives you the freedom to be much more proactive. But whether you are owned by the state or the city or private, in the end doesn't make much difference. You can be perfectly, let's say, optimizing your role even if you are owned by the state.
Yes. I know that the European Commission has asked for Italy and Spain to follow the taxation model. Yes. What's your view on this? Do you think?
Well, it's a bit double. I think if you're really a public entity and if you're not engaged in any economic or commercial services, then you could ask, why should you be subject to corporate taxation? Yes. Of course, if you go for a real economic role, then it makes sense that you're also subject to tax. But they should go together. I mean, you should have the capacity to be an economic player, and then you pay corporate taxes as any other business. Yes. But if your role is simply a regulator, then of course I don't think it makes a lot of sense. So you need to look at two sides.
So becoming proactive, working faster.
Yes.
And in Italy we have just recently become port network authorities. Yes. Do you think that's a good idea?
I think it is a good idea that there is clustering, because a lot of ports face capacity issues. And they face issues of interconnectivity. Yes. And working together with neighboring ports is, I think, generally a very good idea, which you see also again in other parts of the world. Yes. It's moving. You have two models. You have either one that's bottom-up, where yes. two neighboring ports say it makes sense for us to do this, yes. or you have a government stepping in to say, we want you to do this. Okay. There's pros and cons. I think in ports with a municipal tradition, they would find it very hard for government to tell them what to do. Yes. Whereas in Italy, in Southern Europe, of course, you have a tradition of central governance. So it depends. I mean, we have successful examples of both.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.